Hello, and welcome to Cut Reveal, the podcast where we talk about filmmaking, editing, and all of this stuff. Yeah, and I'm here with my co-hosts Ricky and Erwann. What's up, guys?
Hey, nothing much. Editing, trying to move my house.
Yeah, I'm not moving out of my house. I like my house.
So today we will be talking about movies that inspire us as editors. So I guess that's the criteria, like that there is something that stands out for us from that editorial point of view. So that's gonna be interesting because I think very often it's hard to distinguish whether it's really a matter of editing or just the way it was scripted. So because like a lot of those decisions are scripted as well. That's why like it's good to have editing knowledge if you are a screenwriter. It's good to have this like foundation, and if you don't, that's fine. A director will also be able to add this layer to the script, but if it's scripted from a get-go, it's a gold mine.
Agreed.
So we'll be talking about films that inspire us in our work as editors. Is that the way to put it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of the two, right? We can talk about movies that inspired us in our career and inspire us to get involved in movies or at least in audiovisual
Yeah,
media.
okay.
And to go back to Piotr's point, I very much agree that we said it before. Editing, screenwriting have a lot in common. Like we are, it's a editing is a form of writing, of rewriting in a way, and sometimes writing really because you can really transform and make a scene get a new meaning through editing.
Okay, start us off, Erwann.
All right. So when I go back to the young Erwan I was,
Bored.
I feel like the first time I really noticed editing, because like when you're a kid, you don't, is when watching action and horror movies during my earliest teenage years. Because was kind of the first time that I like horror and action, especially Hong Kong action movies, and I'm thinking especially John Woo and Choi Ark, very tried things visually and through editing. Like it was really different. It was not kind of a linear editing as you can see in the movies I was watching when I was a kid. It was mostly like Hollywood movies. It was like the Terminators. It was a lot of action, American action movies and comedies. And this was different because the way they approach editing was noticeable in a way. We always say like editing should be like shouldn't be seen, but I'm guessing that in genre movies and especially I'm thinking action and horror, like they can get noticed to get like big reaction from the audience. And so like movies like Evil Dead and like Sam Raimi's movies, and I'm thinking John Woo are big visual storytellers, and they do a lot of work in editing. And it's they have like when you watch, for example, Hard Boiled or The Killer or Evil Dead Two, you notice editing. Like they're trying things that like playing some action twice in a row from different angles. They're gonna play like John Woo plays a lot of with slow motion and replaying some stuff. They speed up things. They like they really play around with editing, and that's noticeable. So that's when I noticed. Oh, that's funny. It's like it's you notice that it's not real, but it still works. It doesn't try to mimic the real world. It's trying to make you notice that they're doing something. That's the first time I really noticed that. So I'd say like I'm always saying that The Killer is a movie that like shocked me to my core. Like, oh, that's awesome what you can do as a director, and that's when I really noticed the work of a director and what you can do with a camera, what you can do with editing, with sound. It's really like you can go above and beyond like a tiny screenplay, a tiny idea, and really bring things up to something incredible. And and the horror movies like Evil Dead 2, for example, especially Evil Dead 2, was like it's really shook me in the same way. It was like young directors and big directors who were coming with big idea, a lot of energy. And at the time when I was a teenager, it really spoke to me. Now I'm much more into like I'm very much interested in subtle directing. But at the time, it was really something that I was looking for, like big emotion, big images, like big ideas. And I can when I think about what inspired me was really like these films who really made me interesting interested in editing at the time.
Yeah, yeah. You've mentioned this phrase, like good editing should be invisible, right? But I think it's very often misunderstood because, like, when you think about some movies, they work only because of editing that is very visible, but the editing doesn't throw you off, and I think that's the core idea that
That's the meaning.
that
Yeah.
emotionally you have to stay in the story. you it has to be invisible to the point where the audience member never thinks about him watching a movie, but is just invested emotionally. And if it's achieved by visible editing, then it's all good. It's even better sometimes, I think, right? And I think that we can see it at least in animations. I think we can see it more than ever, with Spider-Verse, for example. You get these like stylistic choices, and obviously it's not like the same type of editing as with real action movies, right? But still, like you get those choices where they like kind of have like a, I don't know how to call it, like a bird view, and they make stylistic choices, basically just like hopping out of the story for 5 seconds to make a joke visually, right, and then hopping back to it. And with overlap edits and so on, as you've mentioned, this can be achieved as well. But as long as emotionally the viewer is in the story and enjoys the story and is not thinking about what he will have for dinner or whatever, you're good, we're good. So I just think it's very often like misunderstood that like editing should be invisible.
And so, Piotr, what are the movies that inspired you to become an editor?
I don't know if I have one specific, but films that come to my mind that like left an early impression on me are Godfather, number one and two, especially. And I think like the baptism scene left a huge impression on me, and that's probably the first scene where I was like thinking consciously about how intercutting between like multiple locations and juxtaposing like two completely different worlds can affect me as a viewer.
Can add
Yeah,
meaning.
exactly,
Yeah.
right. And the third meaning that you get from like two things that happen, and you get to understand something different that is not shown in either of these places, but is shown via the juxtaposition. So I think that's the first one that comes to my mind. And the other one that also left an early impression on me is Requiem. Requiem. I also always have a problem with this word. Requiem for a Dream.
Requiem.
Yeah, thank you. Requiem for a Dream, which has so visible editing, like so visible, so like in your face, but it's so strong thanks to those editing choices.
And it left quite a big impression on everyone on the first viewing.
Definitely, like it's one of those
Yeah, I
films.
can remember. I saw that in high school.
Yeah, I have more. When I think about this. Like there is a Polish film, for example, that I'm not sure if it's like a masterpiece in editing, but was surely like a one of those moments where it's like a reveal moment that you didn't expect, or the change of the character you didn't expect that like pays off. The film is titled Symmetry. It's about this guy that goes to a prison for a crime he didn't commit. And at the time, I was like, when I watched it, I was like, I don't know, 13 or something like that. So to me, then, like, it was like unexpected how he turned into a villain, but a good villain, like someone who does bad things, but but thinking about other people, to save other people, kind of. I mean, The Sixth Sense is also the movie that like left a huge impression on me.
Piotr is very much into twists, into big
The
twists.
Usual Suspects. Come on.
So these are the movies that inspired you, like more to like make you interesting in storytelling, made you realize what storytelling is in a way, more than what attracted you to toward editing, especially.
I guess so. Yeah, 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 yeah. Ricky, how about you?
I don't have a specific film that was kind of like the aha moment where I wanted to edit because I didn't go to film school and I didn't, even though I was making films when I was in high school and elementary school and whatnot. Um, because my background, my introduction to editing was like music videos. So that stuff, that style of editing is something that I don't know. It appeals to me. It's something that I notice and I get excited about, and it's a lot of those like kind of flashy images and whatever.
Is there a specific music video that you can think of that you were like blown away by the editing and that could have like helped you get into that career?
No, so I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but back when I was young, back in high school, I had a TV show, and it was like a music video show where I was like on air personality. I helped produce, and we had a deal with one of the local venues where we could shoot and interview any of the bands that came through. And my mentor and our boss, I guess you could say, the guy who oversaw the show, he worked. It was based out of a local access channel, so we had access to cameras. So we would shoot multi-camera shoots of bands and stuff. And so that's how I learned how to cut music videos. Is a 3-camera shoot of, you know, punk rock band, ska band, metal band, whatever. um, so there wasn't anything in that sense it was more out of like this is what's happening rather than like, oh, I saw this video and it was amazing. Like there are videos that I remember seeing that left an impression, but it was more like about the visuals and the storytelling within the visuals and just how weird they were, or how whatever. And especially in like the late 90s, there was a lot of the videos back then, you can tell that they're from the 90s, just basically how, because that was just like the style of stuff, not specifically the quality, but like the setups, like oh, what's his face, director who did Michel Gondry.
Yeah, Michel Gondry.
So Michel Gondry was a music video editor or a music video director before he jumped over. And there's been a bunch of them that have like directors that have jumped over from music videos and commercials into feature length films. A lot of his music videos are like, you know, you can buy a volume of them where all of them are on like a DVD or VHS or whatever. But like he's got a very distinct style. And I kind of lost my train of thought. But basically, like seeing stuff like that where it was like, okay, this is something that's very specific to the time. Like if you see any Marilyn Manson videos, any Nine Inch Nails videos, or old REM videos, they have a distinct look to them. And so those images that are just kind of like eye candy are the things that kind of jump out to me. Something that would be more in this day and age or whatever, or more recently, is like and an editor like Hank Corwin, working with Adam McKay, specifically on something like The Big Short, which is The Big Short is similar to what you had kind of described about like an animation, where they take the time to like kind of break the fourth wall, and like talk to you and say, okay, that kind of gives you a little bit of exposition. It's kind of funny, and then they jump back
Yeah,
into
the Margot Robbie scene, right?
yeah.
In the bathtub.
So so like stuff like that, where with the Big Short, there's a lot of, in my mind, what I would describe as kind of like music video style editing, where within the Big Short there's a lot of images that come into it that are kind of like expository, that are in a way cut together kind of like a music video style, where it's not specifically here's the actors and stuff. It's a lot of see and say, where they're talking about something to describe it rather than just like the actors doing it. We're like seeing cutaways to specifically with The Big Short, you know, like ticker tape and stuff like that. There's another series that he kind of worked with Adam McKay on to cut, was Winning Time: The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
With Winning Time: The Rise of the Lakers, that Hank Corwin edits and Adam McKay directed, and they started it all off with, is like that first, the style of that series kind of holds true to that if storytelling is strong enough, continuity doesn't make a difference, because every shot that is cut to in that is like a different camera angle with a different style on it. So you might have something that's like, the first shot you might see is like super cinematic, super like, okay, this is 35 millimeter film. And then the next shot might be like a VHS or whatever, and it's like grainy and whatnot. And then it'll cut back to something else. And then like the continuity of like placement where they're at in the frame, it might be almost like a jump cut, but because they're kind of still following the line, the thread of the story, it still fits, and you notice the editing.
Editing is crazy in Winning Time. Like they're really trying things, kind of incredible. Even like split screening, like like 8 9 people of on the screen, each in one screen.
Yeah, it's really good. Highly recommended. So it's stuff like that that really inspires me as an editor. And then, I don't want to say the antithesis of that, but then looking at something where with Joe Walker and Dune and the Dune movies, like those movies are all just like, for me, like visually, and the editing and the directing is just so perfect. It gives me goosebumps to watch those movies. Um, but yeah, like, because that's like, I would say if Hank Corn is like punk rock in the way that it moves, and then Joe Walker with Dune and stuff, that's like the symphony.
Yeah, exactly. Good analogy.
Nice one, yeah. Yeah, these films are seamless. Like in the other one that like is a masterpiece in editing, I think, in like guiding the audience is Top Gun Maverick. Like also you can't find like a boring 2 seconds in it. Like it keeps you interested and it keeps you invested like throughout every second of the movie. And
Yeah, and you notice the quality of the editing as an editor when watching the
yeah,
movie.
you can see how they direct your attention and how they teach you things that you need to teach, that you need to learn in like the shortest time possible. And that's
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy how they make it work. A movie that shouldn't work, like it's a sequel to a more than 20 years old movie, and they still manage like to make really exciting scenes, and it's really like, yeah, it's efficiency at its highest in a way, to make it work. It's kind of the editing is mind blowing in this movie too.
Eddie Hamilton,
shout
Shout out.
out.
shout out. Not a sponsor. Not a
Not
sponsor.
Eddie Hamilton products are not to found on that channel. Yeah, talking about movies that inspired us, it's not a movie that really, yeah, kind of inspired me, but very much later in my life, because it's the movie The Limey. And so it's Steven Soderbergh's, like, so very well known director, who's also a director of photography and an editor, actually, who made a crime drama movie. I think it's from like late 90s to early 2000s, and it's quite a simple story. But when they first assembled it together with his or her editor, I don't recall the name,
Sarah Flack.
Sarah Flack. And so they put the movie together, and it was like, oh, this doesn't work. It's not very interesting. And so they decided, like, let's mix it up. Let's just change everything. Don't follow the continuity scene by scene, even within the scenes, even within the dialogue. And so they start like jump cutting in the middle of a conversation, like one man talking, and we just jump cut right in the middle of a sentence to another one, and it's jarring, but it really works, and it gives the movie sort of dreamlike quality, because you never know, like, really where you are when you are. You kind of losing the train of thoughts of the movie, and it makes it very interesting, very compelling, because you kind of in the mind of that guy who's an old guy. It doesn't mean the movie is about a guy who's losing his mind, but it's like he no longer he no longer finds his place in society, within the story. He's looking for his past. There are flashbacks, and they used a movie that the actor was in like 30 years earlier, which is interesting. um, and so they really, like, it's really really interesting. It really shows you the power, how far you can go with editing. That's why I talk to the students about it. I show them the not I show them the movie, but I talked about the movie to them, and tell them to watch it, because it's going to free you from the shackles of what you think editing is, like the limits of editing. I think there are personally, I think there's no limit to editing. Like, you can do absolutely whatever as long as your sound is good. But really, like, yeah, it's a segue about sound, but if your sound is good, you can do whatever. You can do whatever. And that movie, The Limey, really goes above and beyond with that. Like, it really runs with it, and takes things very, like, maybe as far as I've seen in a traditional movie, like in traditional script, because you can see, like, you can watch 2001: Space Odyssey and see some crazy stuff. But this is more about, like, this is a traditional movie, and they just decided to go within it and just like play with it, and it's really I think it's really brilliant. I wouldn't say it's an awesome movie, but it's a good movie with brilliant editing, some brilliant ideas about editing, and it really like takes you like when watching that movie, you can really think, oh, I could rethink the editing of any scene that I've cut now if I'm cutting a movie, and it's really good to even just think about if you've seen that movie in the past, think about that movie when you're editing, like when you're struggling with a scene, thinking this doesn't work, it's not going to work because I can't find a way to make it work. And maybe the solution is really to think about that movie and how it thought outside the box. And that's really like it's really awesome to think, okay, I don't have to respect, like I know that there's the building block theory, you can move things around. This is like you can really like cut within stuff and make things compelling for the audience because it's different, and it's still like if you can still tell your story, tell an interesting story within that. Yeah, so yeah, awesome editing and really inspiring editing.
I haven't seen that movie in a while.
Sarah Flack. Okay, she cut a lot of good movies. Lost in Translation, for example. Away we go. Yeah.
All right,
Okay. Awesome. We should have her on the podcast one
Sarah
day.
Flack, you're welcome.
Also, not a sponsor.
You're welcome to come onto the show.
Okay, the one that I want to mention that like stands out to me when it comes to editing is The Graduate, and partially it's writing as well, because you can tell, like, the match cut, for example, the famous match cut out of the water into the bed is obviously scripted. I mean, I'm
Are you
like,
sure? Are you
okay, I'm
sure?
not sure. I'm not sure, but like I'm almost sure that it's scripted, but maybe not.
Like, is
Maybe
there
not.
is there a commentary track from the
No,
director
I,
that
I
can?
I haven't heard one. So maybe it wasn't scripted, but it looks so seamless and so planned that I would be surprised if it's not. But maybe it's not. If you know, by the way, dear listener, let us know at Instagram at Cut the Reveal or at podcast at cuttothepoint.com.
And there's also a video essay about the movie that Piotr made. I don't know where we can find it. I know I've seen it in the past, but I don't really recall.
Okay, yeah, on Cut to the Point. Yeah, I made like a commentary on my favorite edits from this video because it's a great one. Like, for example, early on in the movie, there is like an excellent overlap edit. Again, like, so you're repeating the part of the movement, and it repeats the same part of the movement 3 times. And it does it in a so unique way. I think it's perfect. You've got like zooms that, again, probably scripted, but sell so well. I think they work so well in the movie. And you've got those like at the end of the movie, for example, they cut the reactions of people so brilliantly, I think, and again so visible. Like, you can see editing like on the plate. But I think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant movie when it comes through that from overall. But but the editing stands out to me from that movie.
That's the word I was looking for when I was talking about repeating an action, the overlapping.
Overlap edit, yeah.
And the last time I've seen that the last time I remember, because I think I've seen that in several movies, but like really obvious, used in a really obvious way, but in a good way, was the 25th Hour by Spike Lee. Where like I don't know if you've seen that movie with Edward Norton.
I have
It's
not.
like it's 24 hours before he has to go to prison, and so he's around New York City. And every time he meets a friend, at least I remember it a couple of times, he like hugs the guy, and you can see it like repeated 3 times from 3 different angles.
Mm-hmm.
Well, repeated 2 times after the first one from different angles, and he uses that several times in the movie. And I was like, that's really like, what kind of feeling do I get from that? And I was thinking, yeah, there's some warmth to that because he wants to show the friendship of New Yorkers in a way.
Yeah, how important this for him. I haven't seen the movie, but I'm thinking like what it could serve. It could serve the purpose of like showing that like in those last 24 hours, like every interaction that he has is very important to him. That's what I'm guessing, like not even seeing the movie, right?
Yeah, no,
And in
exactly.
The Graduate, it's like the shock of what the guy is about to see, like he didn't expect. And you know and like overlap edit like works great for those, even though it's mostly used in action movies, right? It's where it's like where it comes from, I
Jean
guess.
Claude Van Damme movies. That's what it is. I mean, that's what I was thinking. Was like, I mean, in general, the repeat editor, what you had mentioned is it's embellishing a point. It's proving the point even more. Like, okay, this is you need to see this 3 times because this is a very strong emotional
Yeah,
thing.
it creates a memory
Right.
of that moment.
Right. And the same, like it's the same as if you were to like put text in bold. It really sells it. And the same with action films, especially with Jean-Claude Van Damme films. Like they may shoot only like he may kick the dude only once, but they're going to show 3 different angles, 3 different times to be like he's kicking this guy's ass really hard right now.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's it. So if you watch any,
especially Bloodsport. I think in Bloodsport they use it a lot, and there's a fine line between that technique because it's not like there's in action movies. There's the movements when people are fighting, especially fist fighting, are so quick that when cutting to another angle, you always have to go back when someone is punching someone else is giving a punch. You always go back a couple of frames
Yeah,
when
yeah, but
cutting.
that's not an overlap, right? Because if it's not obvious that it's an overlap, then it's not an overlap edit, right?
Yeah, so that wouldn't be an overlap editing, right? Edit. But in Jean-Claude Van Damme's movies, as Ricardo says, they really want to show you the action again and again and again. And in John Woo's movies, it's also a fine line because he does that. It's kind of between the two. He wants you to show that the same action twice, but it is not. It doesn't do it as obviously as Jean-Claude Van Damme, for example, in his movies. Yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme movies are really good for that kind of editing. But that's pretty much it.
this guy edits. Sven Papa had done an essay about that, or he had mentioned it. I think that's where I
No,
saw
no,
it
he did. He did.
about
He did.
Jean-Claude
He
Van
did.
Damme.
Yeah, there's Every Frame a Painting too. I think did something with Jackie Chan about that kind of editing too. Yeah.
Okay, let's jump to another movie. Whiplash. Whiplash is, I think, masterpiece in editing as well.
I have not seen that
You
film.
haven't seen Whiplash?
So I'll just take your word
no
for it.
way.
I haven't.
I can't
It's
believe
on
it.
my. I'm not lying.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's a movie I've been to the theater 3 times.
Tom Cruise is the editor, and my goodness, like it's so well executed, and also I think bold. Like it's not bold to the point where The Graduate is, where it like stands out in your face. In the case of Whiplash, I think it still works as if almost invisible, but it's very stylistic as well. Like you've got these moments where like they speed up so efficiently, and like the tension of the movie, that's the main thing, I guess, right? You get from it the
Oh, yeah,
tension.
the final climax
Yes,
is
it's
crazy.
crazy, and the way
I
they
was like on
build
the edge
to
of
it,
my
like
seat like I've never been before.
exactly. So Whiplash is like wonderful. I love it. I love it.
And you were talking reaction shot, Piotr, earlier about like The Graduate having the right reaction shot, and I was thinking about that ending, about the ending of Whiplash, and now reaction shot from the dad was in the backstage and watching his son like finding out about, well, Ricardo hasn't seen the movie or what's happening to his son. He's like, and it was like just perfect. It just elevated the whole thing, and it's a small detail when you think
without
about
words.
it. Yeah, it's crazy.
You learn everything you need to learn without any word. It's amazing.
Tom Cruise is also a big player. Like he's got all the Damien Chazelle's movies, right? First Man, which is also a masterpiece, and La La Land and all these movies. Yeah, brilliant editor. All right, Ricardo, is there a movie that when thinking about editing, like lately, that
Oh yeah, Gran Turismo. Have you guys seen Gran Turismo?
I have? Yeah.
So for those who don't know, Gran Turismo is based off of a true story about a video game called Gran Turismo, which is a driving game. And they had a contest to see if people who were good at driving on the real life courses within the game, if they could actually drive in real life on the courses. And then, spoiler alert, basically this kid won, and then it ended up becoming a world class like race car driver, like F1 race car driver. But so it's kind of an underdog story because it's somebody who's like working class coming up into a sport that, for lack of a better term, is basically for billionaires. So anyway, but I was super impressed by the editing in that film in regards to like showing like the inner workings of the car moving and like the action sequence of like driving and whatever. I mean, not so much like the emotional storytelling, but like in regards to like the machinations of them driving on the track and all that stuff, and like conveying the speed and the difficulty of and the action within it, I thought was really really impressive. And it almost not, I wouldn't say that it's like video game style, but it's something that is like almost microcosmic, in the sense of like we're watching as the pistons of the car are moving, as well as like getting the emotion of them driving, which I think is something really difficult in regards to like showing action for somebody just like kind of driving a car. Like of course, like the what I think that we're most of the time that we're seeing action sequences are like car chases. It's obviously exterior, but within Gran Turismo, we're also seeing interior stuff, and I don't know, it just works so well, and it really impressed me. That's the latest film that I saw that really impressed me with the with its editing and whatnot. And I don't know if that was part of the writing either, but regardless, it's really good. I highly recommend that film for just that.
I think that it has to be right. A movie where you know you're gonna spend a lot of time like having races. You have to think about, okay, how do I make it exciting and new and fresh? Even if I didn't like the movie, so I guess I failed to notice the editing because I really didn't like the movie. But I agree. Like I think if I recall the way I recall the sorry, the races, yeah, it was really like kind of exciting in itself. I just failed to connect to it, so I had a hard time like enjoying it in a way.
Yeah, the emotional story is kind of thin in some parts, where
Yeah.
you kind of understand, okay, I know what they're going for. But because it's not really, they probably put more effort into the action sequences for the racing than they did with the story specifically. And it's just kind of like, okay, we get the idea. Let's see more of the cool racing stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's all you want
But
from a movie like that.
yeah, but it's still, I mean, it held my attention. It was really good.
I've got one. Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I think it's a very good execution on a brilliant script. So a lot of, I mean, the script is just brilliant, and I think that's the source of the great edit. But the execution of that edit is still as brilliant, like equally brilliant, I think. So it's
I don't like. Can you be more specific
Yeah,
about
a scene or
but
something.
like what you've seen in the editing? Because I've seen the movie and it's a great movie. I think like I went out and thinking great cast, great
again, I
script.
think it's more about the script over here. So I, the script is just brilliant. The dialogues are brilliant, and the way I love how I love the places where the scenes start and where they end. Very often, like it's like what they kind of teach, like start late, leave early, right? But in this film, I think you can see it to a great extent.
Yeah, it's very much unexpected the way that, like things end in many scenes. Like you really can't see it coming,
Exactly.
and it really still makes sense, and it makes for the characters to be really complex and
Yeah,
compelling.
yeah. At the same time, like it treats you as someone intelligent, I guess. They don't help you out, they don't help you out a lot, but the information is laid out over there, so you get everything you need to know, but you need to work for it a little bit. Like it needs to be like an active viewing experience, I guess, in order to understand like the pieces that are laid out and how they connect and everything. And that's what I find brilliant in that film. But again, it mostly comes from the script in this case, but still the execution of it is also important. We've seen like great scripts, not edited well because maybe production company or whatever felt the urge to use establishing shots and so on. Right? In this case, you get everything you need to. I think, at least that's my viewing experience. I haven't studied the movie frame by frame, but still my viewing experience is that like it treats me as someone intelligent, I guess, like able to figure it out on himself. And but it also lays out the information I need to understand everything in like a very precise way. You get like one bit at a time, and like it gives you one question that then it answers another question, giving you another question that you have, and so on, and it goes on throughout the whole story, and also ends on kind of like a not obvious ending, but at the same time very very deliberate and very thought provoking. And I think it's no I it's one of my favorite movies, really. And the script itself, I bought the script. There is like a book version of it. I strongly recommend it because it's like it's a great read. I'm not kidding you. uh, I've seen the movie first, then I read the script. But after, when I was reading the script, even though I knew everything that's gonna happen, right, I still got goosebumps as I was reading it, like so strong.
And so, is the screenplay really close to the final
Yeah,
movie?
it's really, yeah, it's really close. I'm not sure. Maybe it's even a shooting script, or maybe it was even edited after the movie was.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because sometimes when screenplay are released, they match it to the final movie.
Exactly, and I think that could be the case in this situation. I don't recall any differences really, but it's still like just reading the dialogues and the descriptions of action is so strong. It's seriously, I think, the favorite script of mine that I have written, that I have read. Yeah, so Martin McDonagh, The Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah, great movie, great director, great screenwriter. Um, about that, like we were talking about buying scripts and watching screenplay and reading screenplays. I was thinking like that would be great if the screenplays when like released to the public wouldn't be doctored in a way. Like if we could even have the notes in the margin from the director, or like the dialogue that's been scratched out and something else within, or like new pages within, from new dialogue, and even notes from like the post production team, from the editor, like saying, okay, we changed that, kind of that would be like really interesting. That would have great value for aspiring editors, even editors and filmmakers in general.
I think I've seen it in the past somewhere, but only probably one or two times. But I also have a story from.
I think there's an edition of I've seen it in library, but an edition of the book The Godfather by Mario Puzo, with notes from Francis Ford Coppola in the margins, like because he was trying to adapt the book, and so he was writing in the margins, and I think they've released that with his writings everywhere. Maybe that's the one you have here.
I think so. I think
Oh,
I
you
have
you
it. I
got
think I have it
the
actually.
one.
The annotated
Yeah,
Godfather.
it's like a 50th anniversary edition. So it's like a complete screenplay with commentary on every scene, interviews, and little known facts. I love this movie, so I bought this. I haven't read it yet, though.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how is it, but it looks great, and I think there's a lot of value to it.
Yeah, it's a trophy. It's a trophy. It looks amazing. It looks amazing.
For the listeners, Piotr is showing off his book, like to show that he has money and that we don't.
Yeah, actually, I got it as a gift. So, okay, I wanted to tell the story about the script of Yellow Ticket because it's kind of connected to what you are saying, Erwan. Uh, so I had the script where I highlighted some things and I added
So
like.
just a reminder for the audience: Yellow Ticket was written and it's a short movie written and directed by Piotr. That's going to be released
in the future.
In the future,
I don't know
yeah.
when exactly. Yeah, for those who are listening for the first
Exactly.
time.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So when I was directing it and like prepping, really, right, I was like highlighting some sections and giving myself like notes with a pencil and stuff like that. And I left that script. I was like leaving it somewhere on the set all the time, and I was looking for it all the time, basically, right? Because I was.
In your back pocket, always.
Yeah, I wasn't doing that. I was just putting it somewhere on the desk and then like looking at where it is and so on. And on the last day, I was like exhausted, obviously, and emotionally very, just like full of emotions, right? And when people are like, we're tidying up the set, and I'm like, where is my script? Where is my script? We left the building, and I found out that my producer Ada, she actually threw it off because, like, some papers on the desk, she just like took them all, threw them into the trash bin, right?
Oh
Oh,
no!
you must have been
And
so
I was like,
mad.
no way. I wanted so badly. I wanted so badly. I wanted to have like the physical version. I'm not able even to recreate everything. And like, with all the wrinkles on the paper and so on, it's like a gold, like it's important.
Did you throw yourself in the trash, in the
It
bin?
was just before my train, so I didn't have time to go back to the school. So on the train, back to my town, right? I called the school. There was a guard over there because they had like a week off in that school, and I asked him to look for the script for me.
Oh
I
no.
can imagine this reaction, like on the
He just
phone.
laughed and hung up the
Yeah,
phone on you.
fuck you.
He was great. He was great. I like explained where it could be because I tried to figure it out where Ada has put it, right. And yeah, he was able to find it. He said that it wasn't too deep.
Oh, he
Oh,
found
okay.
it.
Oh, so that yeah, because the
Yes.
way you told the story, I was thinking it was gonna be a sad ending.
Yeah, it's a happy ending.
That's a good storyteller for you.
He didn't want anything in return, even though I wanted to, give him some kind of reward.
Oh, that's nice of him.
Like not everyone would do it. Not
I
everyone
want to
would
be
do
in your
it.
next movie. Can you imagine if you had said that?
Make me a star.
I'm a janitor right now. I want to be a
That
star.
would be crazy.
I can finish on. It's actually a movie I watched several days ago, and that has really great editing. So it's Sexy Beast. I don't know if you've seen the movie.
I have not, but I know the movie.
It's actually from the director of Zone of Interest,
Mm.
and so it's Jonathan Glazer, and it's a 2000 movie, I think. Yeah, from 2000, and it's starring Ray Winstone, Ben Kingsley, and Ian McShane. Ian McShane, you have seen in John Wick movies and in the TV series Deadwood. And it's a crime. Like you would think that it's a crime drama, but it's much more complex than that. Like basically, the idea is that guy is a former criminal. He has now his life. He lives in a beautiful place in Spain, in the kind of in the middle of nowhere, in a huge house, and he has a good life. And he left his crime life behind him. And a former colleague of his like comes to him and say, "I want you to do one last job for me." So, like this is pretty basic, right? Except that that's not what the movie is interested in. It's very much about relationship and and um, and very complex character. Like Ben Kingsley in that movie is um, is a crazy character, but in a very interesting way. Is really compelling in the movie, and it really like he makes you really afraid even as a viewer because he has some very much anger issues and some violence within him. Everybody's scared of him, even Ray Winston, who's a big guy, and at some point the editing like just shifts. So far we've been like kind of in the traditional editing, and there's a shift within the narrative, and that is really like they really play around with editing, and I think a lot of it was found during the editing. But you suddenly like make a time jump and you find your main character in some other place, some like maybe a week later than something that happened, but you don't know what happened, and you find out through like glimpses at first when he's out and why he's scared, and because he has that secret, and you really like kind of reveal through like these glimpses that are really really great. You kind of know what happened, but they really make you feel how it feels for him, and that's what's great. It's not just showing to you and okay, this is the info. It just doesn't present you the information. It wants you to feel like how the character feels about like these thoughts he has while he's doing the stuff. So it's hard not to spoil the movie, so I'm not gonna go beyond that. But it was really good, and that's because I'm not sure I was really much aware of Jonathan Glazer before. I don't think I've seen a lot. Maybe not even one movie of his. I'm just like I've seen Under the Skin, which is like very different movie, but he's done a lot of music videos actually. He worked with Jamiroquai, Massive Attack, Radiohead. I maybe it's on tour. Anyway, um, so I get why Zone of Interest, with it, which I haven't seen yet, would be a very compelling movie too, because this is like from the pitch of Sexy Beast to the execution. I was really impressed because it's really not the movie you're expecting, but in a very good way. You feel that there's really a director with a vision, and that he doesn't, like, he's not afraid of trying things editing wise, also storytelling wise. um yeah, so one of the last movies I've seen, maybe the best movies I've seen lately, and really a good watch for editors.
I will mention that Daniel Gerber, who we actually had him on the show, he's an editor of How to Blow Up a Pipeline, for example, and he has like some great comments on Letterboxd. He leaves like great reviews. So this is what he left. I don't know the film, so it's gonna probably be funny only for you, Erwann. But he left a review on Sexy Beast. This is what it's like to consider an editing job after a vacation.
All right, okay.
There you have it.
So
Daniel Garber.
So now you must see the movie. You must watch the movie to understand what he's saying. The movie is kind of just to make kind of people kind of understand what he's saying. The guy, the main character, is away, kind of on vacation in a way, and someone comes to him and asks him to do a job for him, and this is going to be a difficult job. So I think his reference to that.
Of course. No, his reviews are very smart, pretty much always.
Per usual, there'll be links in the description. If you want to leave a comment or tell us anything, you can reach out to us at the email, or you can reach out to us on the Instagram at cuttoreveal.com. You'll hear us next week. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.